On what should have been an ordinary date night in Knoxville, Tennessee, a young couple, Channon Christian and Christopher Newsom Jr., were simply heading out to enjoy each other's company. But as they pulled into a parking lot, their world turned upside down. Their car was hijacked by a group of armed individuals, thrusting them into an unimaginable nightmare. What followed was a horrifying ordeal of abduction, violence, and heartbreak. 5 perpetrators subjected the couple to unspeakable crimes over the course of hours, crimes so brutal they would shake the entire nation to its core. But what exactly happened to Channon and Chris during those fateful hours? How did their story unfold, and what kind of justice awaited those responsible? Welcome to the Crime Series. I am glad to have you join us for another video. Kindly subscribe, like, and share. Let me know where you are watching from. Born on April 29, 1985, in Nacogdoches, Texas, Channon Gail Christian was the eldest child in a loving family. Her parents, Gary and Dina Christian, instilled strong values of kindness, resilience, and faith. The family moved to Knoxville, Tennessee in 1997, seeking better opportunities and a close-knit community where Channon and her younger brother Chase could thrive. Channon was a bright and ambitious young woman, known for her infectious smile and radiant personality. She quickly adapted to her new environment in Knoxville, attending Farragut High School. During her high school years, she was not only an excellent student, but also an active participant in extracurricular activities. Her passion for helping others was evident early on as she volunteered for local charities and community events. Graduating in 2003, Channon pursued her higher education at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, where she majored in sociology. Her choice of study reflected her deep interest in understanding and improving the human condition. Her ultimate goal was to work in social services, where she could make a tangible difference in people's lives. She was on track to graduate in December 2007, a milestone she had eagerly anticipated. Channon's friends and mom described her as a loyal and compassionate individual who brought joy to everyone around her. She had a knack for making people feel valued and cared for, often going out of her way to offer support and encouragement. Her sense of humor and adventurous spirit made her the life of any gathering. Despite her busy academic and social life, Channon remained deeply connected to her family. She often spent weekends with them, enjoying home-cooked meals and sharing laughter over board games. Her parents, in turn, were immensely proud of her accomplishments and cherished her role as a devoted daughter and sister. Channon's life was one of promise and potential, filled with dreams of a future that she worked hard to achieve. Her untimely death was not just a loss to her family and friends, but also to the community she was destined to impact. Christopher Newsom Jr., born on September 21, 1983, in Knoxville, Tennessee, was the eldest child of Hugh and Mary Newsom. Raised in a loving and supportive family, Chris exhibited a strong work ethic and a warm, friendly personality that drew people to him. He shared a close bond with his younger sister, Andrea, and often took on the role of her protector and confidant. Chris's passion for sports, particularly baseball, became evident early in his life. As a student at Halls High School, he excelled as a member of the school's baseball team, the Halls High Red Devils. His dedication to the sport and his natural talent earned him accolades and the admiration of his teammates and coaches. Known for his determination, Chris was the kind of player who led by example, inspiring others with his work ethic and commitment. Beyond his athletic achievements, Chris was a well-rounded individual with a love for the outdoors. He enjoyed hunting and fishing, often spending weekends exploring the natural beauty of Tennessee with his family and friends. These outings were a source of joy for Chris and reflected his appreciation for the simple pleasures in life. After graduating from Halls High School in 2002, Chris pursued a career in carpentry, a trade that allowed him to showcase his skills and attention to detail. He was known for his reliability and dedication to his craft, earning respect among his colleagues and clients alike. Chris's ambition was to build a stable and fulfilling life, with dreams of one day starting a family of his own. Chris's friends and family described him as a kind-hearted and generous individual who was always willing to lend a helping hand. His infectious laughter and easygoing nature made him a joy to be around. He had a close-knit circle of friends who cherished his loyalty and unwavering support. A man of faith, Chris attended church regularly with his family and upheld the values of kindness, respect, and compassion. He was deeply devoted to his parents, often spending time with them and ensuring they knew how much he appreciated their love and guidance. His strong moral compass and sense of responsibility made him a role model for those who knew him. Chris's relationship with Channon Christian was a testament to his capacity for love and commitment. Together, they shared a bond built on mutual respect and admiration. Their plans for the future reflected a shared vision of happiness and stability, making the loss of their lives even more heartbreaking. Channon Christian and Christopher Newsom Jr. began dating approximately 2 months before their tragic deaths in January 2007. Their love story was filled with cherished moments, from quiet evenings spent together enjoying their favorite movies to adventures exploring Knoxville's scenic trails. Friends often remarked on how their bond seemed effortless, a natural pairing that brought out the best in each of them. Channon admired Chris's unwavering kindness and dedication, while Chris was captivated by Channon's radiant smile and generous spirit. Both families were overjoyed by their relationship, seeing in them a promising future filled with happiness and shared goals. Whether it was attending family barbecues or supporting each other at school and work events, Channon and Chris were inseparable, each one's greatest cheerleader. Their love was not just about grand gestures, but also the small, everyday acts of care and attention. Chris would often surprise Channon with her favorite snacks after a long day at university, while Channon would meticulously plan outings that reflected Chris's love for the outdoors. Together, they envisioned a life that harmonized their aspirations with their deep affection for one another. On January 6, 2007, Channon and Chris planned to attend a friend's party, an ordinary outing that turned extraordinary for all the wrong reasons. The evening was meant to be a celebration of their connection, yet it ended in tragedy that forever altered the lives of their loved ones and the Knoxville community. The 5 individuals involved in the horrific crime, Lemaricus Davidson, Letalvis Cobbins, George Thomas, Vanessa Coleman, and Eric Boyd, shared troubled and often tumultuous histories that set the stage for their shocking actions. Davidson, the ringleader, was born in Memphis, Tennessee, and had a long history of criminal activity. His early years were marked by instability, with Davidson often surrounded by negative influences. By the time he reached adulthood, Davidson had amassed a criminal record that included charges of aggravated robbery and carjacking. Released from prison in August 2006, just months before the crime, Davidson moved to Knoxville, where he quickly reverted to criminal behavior. His dominant and manipulative personality was a key factor in the group's actions as he orchestrated the events leading to Channon and Chris's abduction and murder. Cobbins, Davidson's half-brother, shared a similarly troubled background. Born into a dysfunctional family, Cobbins' early life was marred by neglect and exposure to crime. Like Davidson, he had a criminal record, including a conviction for attempted robbery in New York. Cobbins moved to Knoxville at Davidson's invitation, where he became entangled in his half-brother's criminal schemes. Despite his claims of being a reluctant participant, evidence suggested that Cobbins played an active role in the crimes. Thomas, known as Detroit, was originally from Michigan and had a history of associating with criminal circles. He met Davidson and Cobbins through mutual acquaintances and quickly became part of their circle. Thomas's role in the crimes remains contentious, as he consistently denied direct involvement. However, his presence at the Chipman Street house during the events and his failure to prevent the atrocities implicated him as an accessory. Coleman, the youngest of the group, hailed from a relatively stable family in Kentucky. Her involvement in the crime shocked many who knew her. Initially presented as a reluctant participant, Coleman's journal entries, which described her time in Knoxville as an adventure, painted a different picture. Though she claimed to be a victim of coercion, her behavior during and after the crimes suggested complicity, making her one of the most controversial figures in the case. Boyd, a career criminal with a history of car theft and armed robbery, was a known associate of Davidson. Unlike the other perpetrators, Boyd was initially convicted in federal court for being an accessory after the fact. It was only years later, after new evidence emerged, that he was tried and convicted for his direct involvement in the murders. Boyd's role underscored the deep network of criminality that permeated the group. Together, these individuals formed a volatile and dangerous group. Their collective actions on January 6, 2007, revealed a level of brutality and disregard for human life that shocked the nation. While their backgrounds may offer some explanation for their choices, they do not excuse the heinous nature of their crimes. On January 6, 2007, Channon Christian and Christopher Newsom Jr. planned a simple and joyful evening together, intending to attend a friend's party. Earlier in the day, Channon had spent time at her best friend's apartment preparing for the night. Chris arrived later to pick her up, and the two shared a moment of affection in the parking lot before heading out. Unbeknownst to them, their warm embrace caught the attention of a group of predators lurking nearby. Lemaricus Davidson, Letalvis Cobbins, George Thomas, Vanessa Coleman, and Eric Boyd were driving through the area in search of a victim to rob.
As we go into the most intense part of this video, kindly like and subscribe to this channel. It gives me motivation to create more videos. If you love this video and wish to see more, kindly subscribe.
Spying the couple in the parking lot, they saw an opportunity. The group, armed and ready to strike, approached Channon's Toyota 4Runner. At gunpoint, the couple was forced into the vehicle, their lives forever altered in a matter of moments. The perpetrators transported the couple to Davidson's rented home on Chipman Street. Along the way, the attackers stripped Chris of his possessions, taking his wallet, phone, and shoes. Channon's SUV became a mobile prison, carrying the young couple into a nightmare. The drive to the Chipman Street house was fraught with terror. Chris and Channon, bound and helpless, could do little but hope for mercy from their captors. Upon arrival, the couple was separated, marking the beginning of their harrowing ordeal. The home, already a den of criminal activity, became the stage for unimaginable acts of violence and cruelty. Chris's ordeal began immediately. He was taken to a separate room where he was savagely beaten and restrained. Evidence later revealed that he endured horrific sexual assault before being bound, gagged, and blindfolded. His captors showed no mercy, dragging him to nearby railroad tracks in the dead of night. There, Chris was stripped of his clothing except for a shirt, shot multiple times, and ultimately unalived with a gunshot to the head. His captors set his lifeless body ablaze, attempting to destroy evidence of their heinous crime. While Chris's life was extinguished that night, Channon's nightmare continued. Left in the Chipman Street house, she was subjected to hours of sexual assault and physical abuse. The medical examiner's testimony would later reveal the extreme nature of the violence she endured, including severe injuries caused by repeated assaults. The perpetrators attempted to erase evidence of their actions by pouring bleach on her body and into her mouth, further adding to her suffering. Channon was eventually hogtied with strips of bedding, her face covered with a plastic bag. She was placed alive into 5 large trash bags and stuffed into a residential trash bin located in the kitchen. Asphyxiation slowly claimed her life over agonizing hours, a fact that would haunt all who learned of her fate. As the hours stretched into days, the absence of Channon and Chris became increasingly alarming to their friends and family. Text messages and calls went unanswered, and their failure to show up at the party where they were expected only deepened the concern. On the morning of January 7th, Chris's parents began reaching out to his close friends, desperately seeking answers to their son's whereabouts. Similarly, Channon's parents, Dina and Gary Christian, grew more worried as hours passed without contact from their daughter. It was a railroad worker performing his routine duties who stumbled upon Chris's burned and lifeless body near the tracks. The scene was horrifying. Chris was bound and partially undressed, his body showing clear signs of execution-style violence. He had been shot multiple times, including a fatal shot to the head, and his body had been set on fire in an attempt to destroy evidence. The discovery sent immediate shockwaves through law enforcement and the Knoxville community. Chris's parents, Hugh and Mary Newsom, were notified of the grim discovery shortly after. The news was unbearable, shattering their hope that their son might return home safely. Hugh Newsom later described the moment as one of unparalleled agony, a parent's worst nightmare realized. As police processed the crime scene where Chris's body was found, attention turned to locating Channon. Her Toyota 4Runner was found abandoned several miles away, offering the first tangible clue in the search for her. Inside the vehicle, investigators discovered items that did not belong to her, including cigarettes and fingerprints, later linked to the perpetrators. The evidence painted a chilling picture of a crime that was far from random. On January 9th, 2 days after Chris's body was discovered, police executed a search warrant at the Chipman Street residence. What they found would haunt even the most seasoned officers. In the kitchen, inside a trash can, they discovered Channon's body wrapped in multiple trash bags. She was hogtied and had clearly suffered immense violence before succumbing to asphyxiation. The brutality of her death was evident, leaving investigators and her family reeling from the incomprehensible cruelty she endured. The deaths of Channon and Chris left an indelible mark on Knoxville. Vigils were held in their honor, with thousands of residents coming together to support the grieving families and demand justice. The senselessness of the crimes, coupled with the sheer brutality involved, drew national attention, turning the young couple into symbols of a community's collective heartbreak. For the Christians and Newsoms, the loss was more than a tragedy. It was a life-altering devastation. Both families described the immediate aftermath as a blur of sorrow and disbelief, compounded by the need to face the unfolding legal process. The discovery of their children's bodies marked the end of hope and the beginning of a relentless pursuit of justice. The investigation into the heinous murders of Channon Christian and Chris Newsom required meticulous work and unyielding determination from law enforcement. With limited leads at the outset, the Knoxville Police Department and the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation collaborated to unravel the chain of events and bring the perpetrators to justice. Channon's Toyota 4Runner, discovered abandoned near an industrial area, provided the first significant breakthrough in the case. Investigators found items inside the vehicle that did not belong to Channon or Chris, including a pack of Newport cigarettes and personal belongings of the perpetrators. Most crucially, latent fingerprints lifted from the interior of the vehicle were matched to Lemaricus Davidson, linking him directly to the crime. Forensic analysis played a pivotal role in solidifying the case against the suspects. DNA collected from Channon's body and clothing identified Davidson and his half-brother, Letalvis Cobbins, as active participants in the assaults. Seminal fluid, matched to the suspects, corroborated the victims' accounts of prolonged abuse and established the perpetrator's presence at the crime scene. This scientific evidence became the cornerstone of the prosecution's case, leaving little room for doubt about the involvement of those implicated. With Davidson identified as the ringleader, law enforcement launched a coordinated manhunt to apprehend him and his accomplices. Davidson was found hiding in an abandoned house, while Cobbins and George Thomas were arrested in Kentucky after fleeing the state. Vanessa Coleman, initially presenting herself as an unwilling participant, was also detained. Eric Boyd, believed to have assisted in the carjacking and subsequent cover-up, was taken into custody and later charged. Interviews with witnesses and associates of the suspects provided additional insights into the crime. A local resident reported seeing suspicious activity near the Chipman Street house on the night of the abduction, while acquaintances of Davidson revealed his history of violence and criminal behavior. These accounts, combined with physical evidence, formed a comprehensive narrative of the events leading up to the murders. As investigators pieced together the evidence, a chilling portrait of the crime emerged. The coordinated efforts of law enforcement, forensic scientists, and the victims' families ensured that no detail was overlooked. The culmination of their work marked the beginning of a protracted legal battle to hold the perpetrators accountable and deliver justice for Channon and Chris. Interrogations played a crucial role in unraveling the events surrounding the brutal murders of Channon Christian and Chris Newsom. As law enforcement officers brought the suspects into custody, they encountered a web of deceit, deflection, and partial confessions that underscored the depths of the crime's planning and execution. Davidson, the identified ringleader, was the first to be interrogated. Initially, he denied any involvement in the crimes, claiming he had not been at the Chipman Street house during the time of the murders. However, forensic evidence and witness testimonies directly contradicted his statements. Confronted with DNA evidence linking him to the crime scenes and victims, Davidson shifted his story multiple times, each version more incriminating than the last. His evasive and inconsistent behavior during questioning painted a picture of a man desperate to escape accountability. Cobbins, Davidson's half-brother, initially portrayed himself as a reluctant participant in the crimes. During his interrogation, he admitted to being present at the Chipman Street house, but claimed he had no active role in the violence. Investigators, however, presented him with DNA evidence and testimonies from other suspects that contradicted his account. Faced with mounting evidence, Cobbins eventually admitted to sexually assaulting Channon, though he continued to downplay his overall involvement. George Thomas maintained throughout his interrogation that he was merely an observer to the crimes. He denied participating in any acts of violence or sexual assault, instead blaming Davidson and Cobbins for orchestrating the events. Investigators, however, found Thomas's claims of ignorance implausible, given his presence in the house during the entirety of the ordeal. Testimonies from other suspects further implicated him, weakening his defense of non-involvement. Coleman's interrogation was perhaps the most controversial. She initially claimed to be a victim of coercion, stating that she had been held against her will by the other suspects. However, entries in her journal, discovered during the investigation, described her time in Knoxville as an adventure. These entries, combined with testimonies and physical evidence, contradicted her claims of being a passive bystander. During her questioning, Coleman admitted to witnessing the abuse of Channon, but denied participating, a statement that failed to align with the evidence presented. Boyd, initially charged as an accessory, adamantly denied involvement in the murders. His interrogation focused on his role in assisting Davidson's evasion of capture. While Boyd's connection to the crime was not immediately clear, later evidence and testimonies implicated him in the abduction and assault of Chris Newsom. His steadfast denials during interrogation highlighted his attempt to minimize his role in the events. The interrogations revealed a tangled web of lies and half-truths, requiring investigators to rely heavily on forensic evidence, witness accounts, and the suspect's conflicting statements to construct a coherent narrative. Each interrogation provided pieces of a puzzle that, when assembled, depicted a chilling account of premeditated violence, cruelty, and callousness. The suspects' inability to present consistent alibis or plausible explanations for their actions solidified the case against them. As the investigation progressed, the information gleaned from these interrogations became instrumental in preparing for the trials that would follow, ensuring that Channon Christian and Chris Newsom's voices were not silenced in the pursuit of justice. The trials of the accused began in 2008. Lemaricus Davidson, identified as the ringleader, Davidson was convicted on multiple counts, including first-degree felony murder and premeditated murder. In October 2009, he was sentenced to death for his role in the murders. Additionally, in June 2010, he received an 80-year sentence for related charges to be served consecutively to his death sentence. Letalvis Cobbins, half-brother of Davidson, Cobbins was found guilty in August 2009 of the murders of Christian and Newsom. He was convicted of first-degree felony murder in the case of Christian and found guilty of facilitating the murder of Newsom, though acquitted of Newsom's rape. On August 26, 2009, he was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. George Thomas. In December 2009, Thomas was found guilty on multiple counts related to the murders. He received a sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole for each of the 4 capital convictions. In 2019, as part of a plea deal in exchange for his testimony against Eric Boyd, Thomas's first-degree murder convictions were reduced to second-degree murder, and his sentence was adjusted to 50 years. Vanessa Coleman. Coleman was arrested and faced 40 Tennessee state charges. In May 2010, she was acquitted of first-degree murder, but found guilty of lesser charges, including facilitation of the crimes. She was initially sentenced to 53 years in prison. After a retrial in November 2013, her sentence was reduced to 35 years. Eric Boyd. Initially, Boyd was convicted in federal court in 2008 for being an accessory to a fatal carjacking and received an 18-year sentence. In 2019, he faced state charges for his direct involvement in the murders. In August 2019, Boyd was found guilty on multiple counts, including premeditated first-degree murder. He was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms, plus 90 years in prison.
Loved what you saw? Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to join our growing community. Your support keeps us creating.